Today, we will use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events. According to the latest news from Fox News, on December 9th, a violent tornado swept through Middle Tennessee. At least 60 people were sent to area hospitals. Houses and businesses in multiple cities were damaged, leaving 6 people dead. Montgomery County officials said 9 injured people were transferred from area hospitals to Vanderbilt Medical Center. Clarksville, a city about 50 miles northwest of Nashville, imposed a 9 p.m. curfew on Sunday for the second night in a row, with officials confirming 3 storm-related deaths at a news conference. At the time, Clarksville Fire Chief Freddie said teams, including special operations personnel, were still conducting secondary searches in the area. Thank you for liking, leaving comments, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update every day. Clarksville homes were damaged, debris was strewn across lawns, a tractor-trailer rolled over on the highway, insulation was ripped out of building walls, and countless homes were severely damaged. As of late Saturday night, more than 56,000 Tennessee residents were without power. The city of Springfield, about 30 miles east of Clarksville, reported power outages across the city Saturday night and asked residents to stay off the roads. Emergency crews and community members were clearing away debris from the tornado on Sunday. In the nearly 2 years since the storm, the National Weather Service has recorded 41 tornadoes in nearby states, including 16 in Tennessee and 8 in Kentucky. Severe weather also swept through Mississippi, hitting areas southeast of Jackson and the Florida Panhandle. The United States is the country with the most tornadoes in the world, averaging about 120 tornadoes each year, injuring hundreds of people and causing billions of dollars in economic losses. A tornado is an extremely violent weather phenomenon that is formed by rapidly rotating airflow that creates an upright hollow tube. The wind speed can reach 200 miles per hour, about 320 kilometers per hour. It can destroy all obstacles and even cars, houses, trees, etc. rolled into the air. So why is the United States so frequently hit by tornadoes? This is mainly related to the geographical location, climate conditions, and atmospheric circulation characteristics of the United States. First of all, the United States is bounded by the Atlantic Ocean to the east, the Pacific Ocean to the west, and the Gulf of Mexico to the south. A large amount of water vapor flows to the continental United States from the east, west, and south. Too much water vapor can easily lead to thunderclouds. When thunderclouds accumulate to a certain intensity, a tornado will occur. The United States is mainly located in mid-latitudes and is often controlled by subtropical high pressure in spring and summer. Under the control of the subtropical high, warm and moist air from the Atlantic, Pacific and Gulf of Mexico is continuously transported to the continental United States, and thunderclouds accumulate more and more. Secondly, the region with the most tornadoes in the United States is the Midwest, with half of them occurring in the spring. Starting in June, a large amount of warm and moist air moved northward to Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa, and to Canada in July. Since then, the number of tornadoes in the United States has greatly reduced, but tornadoes still occur. The central region of the United States is known as the Tornado Alley or Tornado Alley, because the terrain here is flat and there are no mountains to block it. Cold and warm air easily meet and interact, inspiring strong convective storm systems and paving the way for the occurrence of tornadoes. At the same time, tornadoes only occur in strong convective weather. Strong moving airflow will only occur in summer because the temperature is high in summer. However, in recent years, some rare winter tornadoes have appeared in the United States. For example, on the night of December 10, 2021, 6 states in the central United States were hit by at least 30 tornadoes. This tornado is considered one of the worst tornado disasters in U.S. history. That's because the affected areas were experiencing unseasonably high temperatures at the time, which felt more like spring than mid-December. The combination of rare warm weather and high humidity air provided ample fuel for the storm to form. As time goes by, the wind field increases, boosting the airflow to rotate rapidly, creating conditions for the formation of tornadoes. When a cold front passes through the affected area, it interacts with warm and moist air, triggering a severe convective storm system. Meteorologists say that while the exact link between climate change and tornadoes is still being studied, climate change is increasing the frequency of extreme weather. Global warming increases heat and moisture in the atmosphere, providing more fuel for tornadoes. Warm and moist air from the tropics collides violently with cold air from the Arctic, creating strong convection, which is a necessary condition for the formation of tornadoes, and climate change increases the probability of their occurrence. So, what should we do to escape when we encounter a tornado outdoors? First of all, we need to stay calm, observe the moving direction and speed of the tornado, try to stay away from its path, and leave it from the side or back. If you feel that a tornado is nearby, you can hide in a strong bunker, such as a basement, subway station, cement building, etc., to avoid being hit by flying objects or being swept away. Secondly, we should stay away from big trees, telephone poles, billboards, fences, etc. to avoid being hit, crushed, or getting an electric shock. If there is no bunker, you can find nearby low-lying areas, such as ditches, valleys, caves, etc., lie on the ground, protect your head with your hands, and minimize the stress area on your body. At the same time, we must pay attention to protecting our eyes and respiratory tract, because tornadoes will bring a large amount of dust, gravel, debris, etc., which may sting the eyes or cause breathing difficulties. We can cover our mouth and nose with wet towels, masks, scarves, etc., and protect our eyes with sunglasses, goggles, hats, etc. to avoid inhaling harmful substances or contracting bacteria. Finally, we must send a distress signal to the surroundings in a timely manner, or report our location and situation to the meteorological department, rescue agencies, relatives and friends, etc. At the same time, we must also pay attention to the surrounding environment to prevent the recurrence of tornadoes or other dangerous situations. If you are unfortunately swept up into the sky by a tornado, what should you do to give yourself the best chance of survival? Inside a tornado, during this high-speed rotation, the human body will be subject to huge pulling force, impact force, friction and pressure, which can easily cause serious injuries. Therefore, the odds of surviving being swept away by a tornado are very low, but not completely hopeless. First of all, try to stay calm, don't panic, observe the surrounding environment, and look for possible ways out or rescue. If possible, you can use mobile phones, radios, whistles, and other tools to send out distress signals to the outside world, or report your location and situation to the meteorological department, rescue agencies, relatives and friends, etc. At the same time, pay attention to prevent being hit or scratched by flying objects, and try to avoid sharp, heavy, and large objects such as steel bars, stones, wooden boards, etc. Secondly, try to protect your head, chest, and abdomen. These parts are the important organs of the human body. Once damaged, it may lead to fatal consequences. You can protect your head with your hands, wrap your chest and abdomen with your arms or clothes, or find soft objects, such as towels, pillows, quilts, etc., as a buffer. At the same time, pay attention to keeping your breathing smooth and avoid inhaling too much dust, gravel, debris, etc., which may puncture the respiratory tract or cause suffocation. You can cover your mouth and nose with wet towels, masks, scarves, etc., and protect your eyes with sunglasses, goggles, hats, etc. More importantly, try to reduce your size and weight to reduce the likelihood of being swept away by a tornado. You can take off excess clothing, shoes, accessories, etc., or throw them toward the perimeter of the tornado to lighten your load. At the same time, you should huddle up as much as possible to reduce your stress-bearing area to reduce the impact of wind resistance and wind pressure. If possible, you can find some lighter objects, such as balloons, umbrellas, plastic bags, etc., to use as parachutes to slow down your descent. What cannot be ignored is that you should try to find a safe landing spot to reduce the risk of falling to the ground. If possible, you can choose some softer ground, such as water, sand, grass, snow, etc., to increase the buffering effect. At the same time, pay attention to adjusting your posture and try to land on the side or back of your body first to disperse the impact and avoid serious injuries to your head, chest, and abdomen. If possible, you can do some rolling or bouncing actions before landing to consume excess kinetic energy and reduce damage. So, when we fly on planes and aircraft, are there any chances of encountering a tornado? How will the aircraft be affected when encountering a tornado? In fact, generally speaking, planes and aircraft are unlikely to encounter tornadoes when flying at high altitudes, because most tornadoes occur in the troposphere, which has significant temperature differences and complex and changeable weather. The cruise phase of large passenger aircraft is mainly in the upper troposphere or stratosphere and will not be affected by tornadoes. However, planes and aircraft may encounter tornadoes when flying at low altitudes, especially when taking off and landing, because at this time the plane's speed and altitude are lower and it is more susceptible to the impact of ground airflow. Planes and aircraft will be in great danger if they encounter a tornado at low altitude. First of all, tornadoes will produce strong wind shear and microbursts, which will cause drastic changes in the aircraft's airspeed, altitude, attitude, and direction, causing the aircraft to lose stability and controllability, and even cause the aircraft to stall or crash. Secondly, tornadoes will bring a large amount of dust, gravel, debris, etc., which may puncture the fuselage, wings, nose, tail, and other parts of the aircraft, destroy the structural integrity and aerodynamic performance of the aircraft, and affect the lift of the aircraft. Resistance. At the same time, tornadoes will interfere with or damage the aircraft's radar, navigation, communication, and other electronic equipment, affecting the aircraft's flight safety and command coordination. In addition, tornadoes can damage or stop the aircraft's engine, affecting the aircraft's power and thrust. Therefore, when flying at low altitudes, planes and aircraft should try to avoid encountering tornadoes, or take timely response measures, such as changing routes, increasing altitude, performing go-arounds, etc., to ensure the safety and smoothness of the flight. On the other hand, from an architectural perspective, how can design and construction minimize the damage of tornadoes? First, consider the building's structural system and material selection. Generally speaking, reinforced concrete structures, steel structures, and wooden structures are more resistant to tornadoes than brick concrete structures and lightweight structures. Secondly, reinforced concrete structures and steel structures have higher strength and stiffness and can withstand larger horizontal and vertical loads, while wooden structures have better ductility and toughness, can absorb more energy and reduce the scope of damage. At the same time, the structural system of the building should also consider the integrity and continuity to avoid weak links or fracture surfaces, and increase the structure's resistance to overturning and pull-out. Additionally, consider the form and layout of the building. Generally speaking, the simpler the shape of a building, the more it can reduce the area and wind resistance coefficient affected by tornadoes, thereby reducing the impact of wind load. For example, round or hexagonal buildings are more resistant to tornadoes than square or rectangular buildings. What cannot be ignored is that the layout of buildings should also consider changes in wind direction and speed, and try to avoid being in the main path of tornadoes, or use the surrounding terrain and buildings as barriers to reduce the direct impact of tornadoes. What's more, consider the building's detailing and accessory settings. The detailed design of the building should consider the firmness and sealing of the structural nodes to prevent tornadoes from entering the interior of the building, causing pressure differences between inside and outside, leading to structural damage or damage from flying objects. For example, doors and windows should use double-glazed or explosion-proof glass, or have shields or blinds installed to prevent the glass from breaking or blowing away. The attachment settings of a building should consider the strength and stability of its connection with the main structure to avoid falling off or flying apart in a tornado, causing secondary damage. For example, roofs, balconies, billboards, solar panels, etc. should use reliable fasteners or anchors to increase their wind resistance. Conditions that produce tornadoes include near-surface wind shear, vertical motion, and unstable energy. Thunderstorms are the ideal environment to meet the above conditions and are the main cause of tornadoes. Among them, tornadoes caused by supercells are called supercell tornadoes, and other situations are called non-supercell tornadoes. So, under what circumstances will a tornado intensify? Under what circumstances will a tornado weaken or even be exhausted? In fact, the intensity and duration of tornadoes are affected by many factors, the most important of which are atmospheric instability, wind shear, and water vapor content. Generally speaking, the instability of the atmosphere increases, that is, the temperature in the troposphere decreases at a greater rate with altitude, making it easier for updrafts to form and develop, providing more energy and power for tornadoes. Secondly, the wind shear is enhanced, that is, the wind speed and direction at different heights change greatly, causing the updraft to produce more rotation in the vertical direction, providing more angular momentum and vorticity to the tornado. What's more important is that the water vapor content increases, that is, the relative humidity or dew point temperature in the atmosphere increases, causing the updraft to release more latent heat when it condenses, providing more heat and water vapor for the tornado. Conversely, there are cases where a tornado's winds weaken. The first is that the instability of the atmosphere is reduced, that is, the temperature in the troposphere decreases with height, making it more difficult for updrafts to form and develop, providing less energy and power for tornadoes. The second is the weakening of wind shear, that is, there are smaller changes in wind speed and direction at different heights, causing the updraft to produce less rotation in the vertical direction, providing less angular momentum and vorticity to the tornado. At the same time, the water vapor content decreases, that is, the relative humidity or dew point temperature in the atmosphere decreases, causing the updrafts to release less latent heat when they condense, providing less heat and water vapor for the tornado. In addition, tornadoes are also affected by factors such as terrain, ground objects, and ground friction. Generally speaking, flat open areas, such as plains, grasslands, deserts, etc., are more conducive to the formation and development of tornadoes, while complex terrain, such as mountains, forests, cities, etc., are more conducive to the destruction and dissipation of tornadoes. This is because flat areas can make airflow smoother, while complex terrain can make airflow more turbulent, which affects the structure and intensity of tornadoes. In recent years, the frequency and scale of extreme weather events around the world have continued to increase, from high-temperature heat waves, heavy rains and floods to hurricanes and wildfires, and global warming is one of the important drivers. Experts call on all countries to be prepared to deal with more frequent and more intense climate disasters. At the same time, international cooperation should be strengthened to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve the accuracy of weather forecasts, and improve extreme weather warning mechanisms to jointly respond to climate change zones. The challenge comes. Thank you for liking, leaving a message, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update the latest news from around the world every day. Continue to use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events.